take off like all my layers. All freaking movement of any fabric will literally ruin the sound on this. All theater has truth. From theater and education to panto and Shakespeare. Clive Rowe. I feel like out of respect, since I do begin with a quote by whomever, especially those I find after Googling, if I find their words useful, I need to work on taking time to learn who said those words. So, as stated, the quote was by Clive Rowe, also known as Clive Mark Rowe, MBE, which stands for Member of the Order of the British Empire. I had to Google that. He's a British actor, obviously, and I read that he began his career in theater and was already winning and nominated for multiple Oliver Awards. And then I went and looked a little bit more of his works, and on television he's been in The Story of Tracy Beaker, So Awkward, All the Small Things, and then a Disney series called The Evermore Chronicles. Honestly, I don't know any of these works. I might be just a fake fan. I'm not really sure. In the summer of 2009, he appeared as Jesterfest in Edward Dix Regent's Park Open Air Theater's production of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. So in relation to him even referencing the Bard of Avon, he's done Shakespeare, so I trust him. I just want to disclaim to you, to those who don't know, there's no judge, no hate, no whatever. We are all here to learn together. I didn't know this at one point too. Panto is short for pantomime. Pantomime literally means all mimicking, from the Greek words pan, or quote, all, and mimos, which means imitate. And in theater, pantomimes were a really popular form of entertainment in Greece and Rome. And this is the type of music comedy stage production that combines contemporary humor with or based on a popular fairy tale or folk tale, legend, etc. Keeping the material fresh is super important in pantomiming. This form of theater has to keep its eye firmly on modern trends, or modern day trends, I suppose. Traditionally, it's used for modern traditions and conventions. And then I also read online something along the lines of, pantomiming is the preservation of theater audiences for years to come. And that made sense to me because pantomime does have its wits and its wonders and can be shown to any audience member, in all honesty, whether it's the youngest child in the room or the oldest hag in the room. The oldest elder in the room, excuse me. And if you aren't questioning this already, why aren't you? I'm just kidding. But what is mime versus pantomime? Mime, on the other hand, is the art of acting silently through different theatrical movements. Pantomime, on the other hand, it's still no dialogue, it's still no speech, but it's based in reality. And my best advice to separate mime and pantomime and just know the difference between the two, think pano more or less as a form of interpretive dance. I think of it as much more dramatic. My goodness, I did not mean to just give you a whole lesson on mimes and pantomimes. I haven't even said a formal hello yet. In case last week's first episode and introduction were missed, hi there, I'm Polina Rose, and this is Breaking the Fourth Wall with Polina Rose. Last week when I launched this podcast, I mentioned how I wasn't really sure what to title it. I had mentioned the word SIDS probe and gave a brief meaning of why I would've, /could've, /should've, /didn't name it specifically that. I, however, got feedback from individuals stating, Polina, why didn't you tell us what breaking the fourth wall means? So let me touch base on that. My apologies. Breaking the fourth wall, in theater specifically, is, quote, crossing this invisible line between the world of the performance and the spectator. In doing so, you're drawing attention to the fictional aspect of the show or the setting, whether this is on stage or screen. Breaking the fourth wall can be seen in film, video games, shows, etc. A really good example of a show where the character breaks the fourth wall is Fleabag. She is always referencing to the audience. But breaking the fourth wall is a time to acknowledge the artificiality of the environment. And also, I think that's kind of cool because now both the performers and the audience are aware that there is artificiality, and it's almost like this little secret between the audience and this one character. Meanwhile, the other characters don't even know. The word artificiality, it means insincere. It means unnatural, probably made by humans, not made naturally. You get the gist. If we want to put it in a metaphor, or I guess phrase it metaphorically at least, artificiality is to the theater world. And my breaking the fourth wall is to separating the artificiality in theater and how the art presents themselves. There's two sides to every story, we all know that, and in order to see behind the scenes of theater, we need to cross this imaginary line to hear its truth. I kind of like to think of it as like spilling the tea. Breaking the fourth wall, to me, or just breaking the fourth, is saying, hey, how about you come on stage and you see the truth for yourself? Let's become detached from what we think theater is and its values and attempt to perceive it how it is, both on and off stage. In today's episode, I think my main piece I hope to stick with you is the word perception. Specifically, this episode, I want to voice not only my opinions and thoughts, but experiences in theater and my opinion on studying theater arts for university, college, conservatory, whatever it may be. I had mentioned this in the first episode, and I said, I'll touch base on this later. And then when I was creating the lineup for this episode, I was like, okay, I'll just talk about this because I got stuff to say. But anyways, going back to perception, I want you to attempt to focus on the perception the public eye has on studying performing arts, as well as the table of men that are listening to the 200 girls auditioning for the same school and all this stuff. From a personal standpoint, I'm sure as we all understand now, music theater was where my heart was at most of my life and my childhood. We get it. I never had plans to really go and study a career path that would promise me a job of doing the same thing. I wasn't gonna go to college and go graduate and get a diploma just to work in a cubicle for the rest of my life until I needed life support. That being the case, I wasn't naive, and I knew that with the plan of going into music theater for my studies, I wasn't necessarily going to have a set occupation and a steady job. And if I did come out with a paper after 4 years, it really is just a piece of paper. Unfortunately, in the theater world, I strongly believe your talent, your looks, who you are, depends more on where you went to school. But also, after switching majors, this did open my eyes a little bit because I realized that education does come in many forms. And when it comes to the arts, you don't need a degree to make it in the industry. And I kind of wish I knew that before I applied to music theater school, but also everything happens for a reason. With the idea of perception still in mind, I want to ask you, just to answer this in your own head, what are your genuine thoughts on people just studying their passion and dreams? Does it make them better? Perhaps. The training never ends and really shouldn't end if you're an active participant, whether it's in theater, sports, etc. That is very hypocritical of me to say, but I seem to live a really sedentary theater lifestyle at the moment. However, after seeing how the theater business operates in the school setting, whether it's college, university, not so much high school, graciously, I can confidently say if you want to make it big on Broadway or big whatever the performing stage is where you're living, majoring in music theater will not get you there. But even with that information, I still feel like it is so lost among the college students who are studying the arts. To back up my point, I'm not saying not to major in music theater. I think realistically, if you want to major in music theater for the education, life experience, the networking, and padding of having a degree just in case stuff doesn't work out, if you're doing theater for the educational purposes and the other stuff I just listed, I truly think that you should be hustling off campus and still getting involved with the arts in the community and around, because that's only another way to put your name out there. And it's actually practicing in the arts, not just learning and playing a scrimmage in the arts. However, it's so difficult to get involved in theater on your own time when you are studying the arts, because when I was studying music theater, it was 9-hour days of classes where you're relaxing your jaw, you're getting really intensely told tactics every 2 seconds, and believe me, the last thing I wanted to go do was, quote, hustle. Believe me, I was not a hustler. After my classes, the last thing I wanted to do was go out and get involved. 7:30, I was headed back to my dorm, ready to smoke some roach-ass weed. When majoring in such a not money-making career, there definitely was fear on what I was going to do for money after college, and I wanted to full-time act, and sometimes life gets in the way, and you have to find new paths. And that is a universal experience among all of us. Unfortunately, we have to experience this multiple times throughout our life. I think that with today's rising first years in college, as well as rising seniors, specifically the arts, such a little percentage of that population realizes that they're probably going to meet their significant other at school and then work really weird jobs and perform every once in a while, maybe regularly, not daily. And that does sadden me to say, honestly, because if you have a dream, that's amazing. Go and chase it, but I think you must have the maturity to realize the reality of your dreams, because dreams are dreams and they are bigger than life sometimes. And that's not intended to sound negative. I just think that it is a wake-up call that I experienced, and I think that people experience as they continue to grow and figure out what occupation they want to do. My intended degree in studies in music theater wasn't going to open any doors in the business world for me, really, at the time, that is, because it was COVID era. Still, the skills I learned at school, like hard work, dedication, self-confidence, all the gobbledygook, and as grateful as I am for learning all of those skills, it just was not the perception I had going into music theater school, and it was not this perfect image I had hoped for while attending theater school. When it comes to perceiving music theater school, and not just the studying of it, I think faculty plays a large role in creating this false image of studying music theater and earning a degree on it, saying it's so cool and amazing. I don't think the theater world touches base enough on what could be emotionally abusive behavior. Arts education in general can be toxic. It's the business of theater too. I never knew how many of your peers would throw you under the bus in a class collectively that you were supposed to be with for 4 years just to get a role or to be a teacher's pet. It's disgusting. I would even witness the upperclass people, gender neutral, my bad, and I could even see the same patterns just happening in the years ahead of me. And that just was not good to look at. And I don't think if you are truly passionate about studying something, you would stay and study it if you knew how toxic the environment was around you. As I educated myself more on abuse, specifically emotional abuse in the arts, the main one that stuck with me was humiliation. I had a couple of prof experiences, as well as been a witness to other students experiencing humiliation, shame, or even punishment in a classroom in order to motivate us to do better and be better. That was our tactic. You're terrible, do better, be better. Tactic, you suck, sing. Some professors, not all, but some, without even knowing us, presume to know the potential of us as a student, and they just make judgments about our abilities, our work ethic, our career prospects, and that is not uplifting to study and attend class to. Studying theater, I found, consists of not being offered constructive ways to improve or fix an issue. By no means am I saying that all music theater school sucks. I'm not saying that in any way, and I'm not trying to imply that in any way. I'm just saying the theater school, you may have your hopes and dreams on graduating. You may have to run the gauntlet of poor support, no exemptions, no exceptions, and then get graded strictly on your talent for 4 years straight. Lastly, to wrap up and also back up my point on this, I found a blog post from a student studying music theater who wrote a blog post titled Confessions from Theater School. She basically stated her own personal experiences as well as a few quotes. And also it's always nice to hear something said from someone who is not me or someone who's not your mom. Someone, you know what I mean? The blog post reads, "Someone once told me that these theater programs break you down in order to build you up. In acting class, I was hungry to learn. Watching my teacher critique others, listening to my classmates' opinions about what worked and what didn't, I crafted my version of the ideal actor. My investigation brought me specific conclusions. Be the thin, beautiful girl, not the funny, fat girl. Be smarter and have more depth. Get some real-life experiences. I started to wonder if I was lovable enough to be playing a lover. I could not shake the simple need to be desired." I just thought that was a really nice piece to support what I am trying to get across. The best way I can put it is you're auditioning every day you are at music theater school. Theater training, if it's good, it's going to make you develop stamina and discipline. And as performers, if you have good profs and good teachers, you learn to have this all-around love for the ensemble, and you want to keep physically, vocally, mentally, and emotionally fit. Bad schools with shitty profs who didn't live out their dreams suck the money, the confidence, and the life out of you. And I feel like it'd be rare to see someone leaving from class that wasn't not feeling hollow or empty. Theater school, above all, whether it's auditioning, whether it's in classes, etc., doing skits, doing tactics, blah, theater school definitely made me question the actor I could have been or otherwise could have been, and also gave me a nice little case of imposter syndrome. But it's I think that genuinely is going to happen to you if you do go into the arts. The discussion to go or to not go to music theater is really vast. And there's a lot of really good actors that get their dreams crushed, and there's a lot of really bad actors that get their dreams flourishing, or they're just handed the gold beyond their experience and abilities. It's so interesting to see casting sometimes. There are so many archetypes of students in music theater, but that can all be for another time. Theater schools and full-time acting programs really try to promote that they teach you this solid and broad understanding of acting and its techniques. The main goal is to keep your love of acting and your love for exploration alive. Unfortunately, I think in most cases, especially post-pandemic, that's unfortunately not true. And my advice is you might as well just dive right into the water and sink or swim. All right, and then I'll bring us back to the quote I started with. All theater has truth, from theater and education to Pano and Shakespeare. And what does Pano stand for? 1, 2, 3, pantomime, by Clive Rowe. In an attempt to relate the beginning quote to this podcast, envision me holding my hands out. I have my right hand and my left hand just right in front of me. My right hand's holding pantomime and my left hand is holding education. The relation of education and Pano and theater only shows us that no matter what's being performed, education being taught, pantomime being interpretive dance, there's always a direct meaning behind all of it. We just need to break the fourth wall to see it all unfold. I think that is where I am going to end it here. I appreciate you for listening today. This podcast is not meant to offend anyone, and it's just me rambling in whatever quiet place of my house I have. I am hoping to drop my next episode on July 14th. Until then, my socials will be linked down below. Thank you for listening. This has been Breaking the Fourth Wall with Polina Rose. Have a great weekend.